people want to work full-time but can only find part-time jobs. According to a recent Yahoo survey, a third of American workers are insecure and anxious about their job security. I am here today with leadership development expert Dr. Daryl Green, who is the author of his book, Breaking Organizational Ties. Dr. Daryl Green is also the author of several other books, including My Cup Runneth Over and the acclaimed Awakening the Talents Within. Dr. Daryl Green teaches marketing, management, and entrepreneurship at Lincoln Memorial University and Knoxville College. Dr. Green holds a doctorate in strategic leadership from the Regent University. He holds a master's in organizational management from Tusculum College and a bachelor's of science in engineering from Southern University. Dr. Green, thank you for being here. What is your book, Breaking Organizational Ties, about, and why did you decide to write it?
That's a great question. I thank you again for allowing me to be here. Our world is unraveling before us as we look at 15 million people out of work. My one experience dealing with coworkers at my work, there was a lady, she had been working over 20 years, she was 50 years old, and she said, you know, one thing that I never had was somebody to mentor me. And I talk to employees, I talk to workers. A lot of them hate their jobs. They don't feel like the management cares. There's actually a Marks poll that says less than 7% of the people that were polled trust their managers to do the right thing. And so I guess my passion was, what can we do in terms of research to help individuals, give them the tools so they can survive. We call this economic turbulence that we deal with. So it's a way of giving them tools, giving them skills to encourage them that the world is not defeated, that there is still hope in the world. And we hope Breaking Organizational Ties can be a cornerstone in helping people prepare for what lies ahead.
Well, my second question is then why are so many people unhappy with their current jobs when we have so many people that are out of a job? And shouldn't we be happy to have a job, just to have a job, even when so many people are out of work?
That's a great question. I guess I want to give you a little quick history lesson. As we know, back in the pre-industrial revolution, you had what we call the agrarians. Mm-hmm. They were farmers. They were characteristics. They were very independent. They loved family. They had a sense of God and a sense of hope. When the industrial revolution came upon them, a lot of the young people left and went home. They went to the bright lights, hit the factories, and their life changed. You had management that was set in place. Families were separated. You had workers working longer, and the agrarians were independent people. They no longer had an independence. So systems were set up and developed because the agrarians, for the most part, were unskilled or uneducated. So management put together systems. They had standards, they had processes that would keep them in check. But one of the things they did, they lost the heart of the worker. Mm-hmm. Now we look at, in the 21st century, 2010 and beyond, we still have that same type of mentality where managers think that employees are lazy, they don't want to work, and that same, and we know that information is growing day by day, that workers, we call them knowledge workers, they have a lot of experience, they have a lot of energy. The example I talked to you about, the lady that was 50 years old, she wanted to do more. She had a college degree, but she was put in this pigeon, stovepipe, that she could only do secretary work. And so a lot of workers are, as we talk about the 21st century right now in terms of economics, a lot of people are either unemployed or underemployed. Mm-hmm. In terms of, you got college students coming out and they're having to work at McDonald's or Walmart's. And so there's some disenchantment. You know, the American dream that I work for, I can no longer take. There are people that feel, I went to school 8 years, and I'm in the same situation as with people that did not go to college. And so there's some there's some disappointment, there's some frustration. There's actually a study that says 68% of the workers in the country feel burnt out. And what I mean is you have people, when we did the outsourcing in the 80s, we laid people off. In the 90s, we continued that effort. So what happens to the workers that remain? Mm-hmm. They have to do 2 or 3 times as much work. So there's a lot of frustration going on in the workplace. So that's why that's what's going on right now.
But in these situations with workers being so frustrated, do bosses really know how to motivate their workers? I mean, and if not, why don't they?
A lot of that I think goes back to what we talked about the Industrial Revolution. I think a lot of managers want to do the right thing, but they don't have the education, they don't have the experience, they don't have the training. I think there's a lot of they take workers for granted. Managers manage, but they don't know how to deal with people. And there's a term we talk about, emotional intelligence, where I can feel what's going on in the workplace. I understand how to relate to my employees. And for the most part, managers have taken a very impersonal relationships. And even back, we talked about behavior school, which values workers. That managers, for the longest, you had Tom Peters, you had even Frederick Taylor, who came up with the systems in place for management systems, that they all said we need to treat workers with respect and with dignity. Mm-hmm. Today we have the same problem. A term I call social technical systems, that where you have the machine and you have man. And most managers are good at managing things, managing processes, but they are very lousy at dealing with people. So when you have people being treated as like a mechanical machine or instrument, you have a very impersonal relationship, and we know that people are personal. People want to be respected, to be valued, and at this point right now, managers, senior managers have not gotten the bottom line. It's the people. I mean, they talk about it. We hear human capital. We need to value people, but in most cases, they really don't. And that's really what the problem is, that managers are not making that connection to their employees, making that relationship, sharing their vision, and seeing how their vision is very important to the bottom line. That's really where they're falling short.
Well, what would you suggest if, with people knowing and feeling that they are in a dead-end job, mm-hmm. what should they do about that emotion, about that feeling, about how that affects their job performance?
That's another great question. I think the first thing I encourage people is to evaluate what they really want to do. Mm-hmm. What do I would say we have an occupation. Occupation is what I do in order to make a living. Mm-hmm. Then there's a term we call vocation. It's really where you feel led. God has given you a certain talent and a certain energy. We spend a lot of time on our occupation. We spend very little time on our vocation. So I would say first, analyze, what do you really want out of life? Mm-hmm. Are you really just happy? A lot of people that I deal with are working 2 or 3 jobs. They have kids, they have families, they're working 2 or 3 jobs, and they're not content. So I say you have to know, what do you really want to do? And that's not a overnight, a silver bullet type of thing. That's something that each individual has to sit down and really think that about. Once that person does that and say, where is my vocation, what I really enjoy doing, then the person has to look at where I'm at right now. If I really want to be an engineer and or be an accountant, where I'm at right now, well, I don't have a degree. So then you have to make those steps in terms of what you have to do in terms of the gap in covering it. But another thing that you might want to analyze, I had a friend, she is an engineer, and one of her passions is cooking. And so she was able to build a catering business around that. In saying that, determining what are your skills? What are your skills and your abilities? Now you have, whatever job you're working on, you have some kind of talent or skills that are associated. But in terms of the vocational things that you like to do, what are those skills that you have in analyzing those? And from there, trying to bridge the gap and trying to see, where do I need to be from there? And one of the things I encourage is to read. I'm a constant reader. Read on subjects that you are interested in terms of making that crosswalk. But one of the most key things that most people don't do, you're listening to me right now, you hear me?
Yes, I am.
Is people don't have a plan. People do not have a plan, a roadmap in getting to where they want to be. But it first comes, you have to have a vision. Again, that vocation. What do I need to do in terms of getting to where I need to get? And putting together a plan. I say writing it down. There's something very powerful in writing your goals down that make things happen.
Do you think that, fear could be holding some of these people back from trying to do a better job, or trying to go, like you said, your friend is an engineer and went on to follow a passion in something else? I mean, do you feel that people are both afraid of going after their passion and dealing with their 9 to 5, or?
I think fear can be a demotivator in terms of reaching a goal. I think that's an excellent point. A lot of people have a fear of taking risk. Some people like that safe zone. There are other people just don't like to be ridiculed. If I go, if I'm an accounting and I want to do daycare, there's a perception that my friends and neighbors will shun me, will look down upon me. And the example in terms of fear, there was a story of back in World War II of a soldier that was trapped behind enemy walls. Now, the soldier was a prisoner and he was faced a captain. The captain told the prisoner, he said, you could be executed by a firing squad or go behind a door that was marked unknown horrors. So the prisoner paused a few minutes, and he said to himself, he said to the captain, he said, Captain, I'd rather be executed. So at that moment, there was a young sergeant that was standing by there, and he said, Captain, what was behind the door marked unknown horrors? And the captain paused a little bit, and he said, freedom. So many people have a fear of the unknown. I have a stable job. I have a stable job. I'm working 9 to 5. Even though I hate my job, I know the job. I know the demons that are involved in that job. And they don't want to take that risk. I hear a lot of people complain, but taking that risk, doing what you feel you're compelled to do, most people have a fear of that.
Is it now, in today's job market where I guess they always say, is it really about who you know or what you know? Can that really apply even with everything that's been going on today and for the last couple of years?
Yeah, we hate to say it, it's a dirty, dirty secret. But it's really about getting employment is all about relationships. Building your relationships. People, again, we talk about risk. If I have one job and I have 1,000 applicants, then I'm going to look for criteria to narrow down that list. And so one of the things that I want to do in terms of making myself successful is I want to hear some sort of relationships. Maybe that person is the same fraternity, or maybe that individual, somebody gave me a referral on that person. But most of the jobs today that when I talk to personnel specialists, when I talk to human relationships, it's the closed door discussions. They mention it's all about relationships. That managers tell me, some of them tell me, it's all about building relationships. And those are the individuals that get the job. So I encourage people who are looking for jobs to network, build your relationships, join clubs. Well, a lot of people retreat, in terms of, I'm unemployed, so I want to be by myself, I want to sulk. Really what you need to be doing is networking, building relationships, and getting your name out there.